This has to be one of the worst endings to a love story that I've ever seen. I tell y'all all the time to stop doing love spells on people, but maybe this is gonna be the story to convince you. At this point, they're 3 years into the relationship and things are just taking turns for the worst. Despite all the abuse and everything that was going on in the relationship, Savannah loved her man. She wanted to stay and she wanted to work things out. It's through the fantasies that he had and his anger. They would have really good moments and then they would have really, really bad moments. I guess during one of their good moments, Savannah winds up pregnant. It was a very stressful pregnancy, which would later lead Savannah to have a miscarriage, unfortunately. And during this time, especially after losing the baby, her man became even more abusive. Verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, basically telling her that it's all her fault and that she wasn't enough, and that basically it's her fault that the baby was gone. So not only is she going through a lot of emotional turmoil with this man, but the physical abuse kind of never stopped. So approaching 3 years into their relationship, finally Savannah's like, I have to get out of here. She's been paying all the bills, footing everything by herself. It's exhausting. She has no money. She's lost a child. She's being abused. And finally Savannah's like, enough is enough. I have to go. So she proposed the idea of a breakup to her man and he didn't take too kindly to that. He basically destroyed the house and told her that they were going to be together forever. He was crying. He was down so bad. Somehow Savannah still had the heart for him. She knew she had to leave, but maybe that night wasn't the right time. Eventually, Savannah made an exit plan. Gave her man some Benadryl the night before so he was not. Had some friends come over to the house while he was asleep in the middle of the night. She had her friends come to the house in the middle of the night while he's asleep to basically move her to an undisclosed location. She's getting accustomed into this new spot that she's in, and 2 weeks later, dude finds her. She then is like, okay, this is too much. She goes to see the person who gave her the potion and she's like, yo, this man is wilding out. What can I do to basically make him stop? And the lady's like, there's nothing you can do. Basically, the potion is running low. If you didn't keep refeeding it to him throughout the time, then he's basically going through like withdrawals right now. So it's either you give him more to keep him sweet or you just let it run its course. Savannah decided to just let things run its course. In the meantime though, because dude keeps showing up and threatening her, she decided to get a restraining order. He violates the restraining order multiple times, takes him to court, and somehow she doesn't get approved for another one. And there were no consequences for him violating the restraining order. There were no proof. Eventually, Savannah's like, yo, enough is enough. She is literally being stalked by this man, being taunted by this man every day. So she decides to go to a different lady, a different spiritual healer, who then tells her that she has to do a cord cutting ritual. So she does that. It's basically 2 candles burning with a rope in the middle. It took forever for the ropes to detach from the candles. After the ritual was done, she did a cleansing, prayed, and just hoped for the best. She ended up moving in with her parents. The stalking eventually, slowly but surely, subsided. Well, it's been 2 years since the stalking has stopped. She finally felt safe enough to tell her story. So yeah, maybe don't do love spells on people. The end. Also, I have a bone to pick with y'all. All the bullying has to stop. Like, the bullying for part 3 is like, come on, it has to stop. I am tired and a real person outside of the stories. I'm posting other videos and y'all all up under the other videos that has nothing to do with the spooky stories talking about part 3.
My best friend met the devil last night, and if it wasn't the devil, it was at least a serial killer, and I'm going to tell you the whole story because she doesn't post on social media. I got permission. I'm going to try and go fast. So for the point of our story, there's 2 main characters. I'm going to refer to them as just J and E. They go out to the bars together last night. They are both cis women, okay? So they go out, they're having a good time, and they meet this guy. This guy approaches them. This guy, we're going to call him R, simply R, from Georgia, okay? He comes up, he starts talking to them, they're chatting, he's telling them about himself, and they said it's all good vibes. He's older, he's like in his 40s, they're both in their mid-20s, but they're chatting it up. And at this point, you know, they're both pretty girls, and they're like, we're going to get him to buy us a free drink. So they're talking to him, he offers to buy them a drink, and the whole time that they're talking to him about their lives, he's like telling them like, oh, you guys are so beautiful, you're so beautiful, you should never pay for anything. When was the last time you paid for a drink? And they're like, oh, we actually just bought ourselves drinks like not too long ago. And he was like, oh, well, if you're ever paying for your own stuff, you're doing it wrong, blah, blah, blah. So he buys them the drinks, and then once he's like going on this whole tangent about how they should never buy stuff, and like here's how they do it, they just need to like suck up to guys, and guys will buy them anything. And my best friend, she's like that's obviously what we're fucking doing to you. So she like makes a little joke with him, and she's like, oh, well, thanks for letting us practice on you. And then they walk away, right? And it's all good. Like, he doesn't seem upset. He's just kind of like gagged, like, oh wow, like they got me, right? So they walk away, they go to a table, and they're sitting and talking for a second. Jay is telling E like, oh yeah, like he was like whatever, like a little bit weird that he was like kind of going off and all that. And E's like, yeah, but I don't know, he seemed kind of nice. So Jay has her back to this way, E's facing this way. R, the guy, comes up behind Jay while she's talking about him, and then E's like, oh my gosh, like your bag, blah blah blah. They're not really freaked out at this point. They're just kind of like, oh, like wow, like, why are you back? And he's like, yeah, but you guys thought you got rid of me, ha 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 ha. Kind of a weird thing to say, but whatever. They don't feel any negative vibes from him yet. So he sits down, they keep talking, and he starts going on a tangent, telling them all about his kids and his life. Also, he's a truck driver. I feel I should mention, because it's going to come back around. He is a truck driver from Georgia. So he's telling them all about his kids and how his kids are doing all these awesome things. And so Jay goes, oh wow, like, you must be really proud of your kids, and you must be really proud of yourself, because you must be doing something right if your kids are doing, like, so well for themselves, right? And at this point he goes, oh, I don't think my kids would agree. And Jay and E think, like, he's just being modest, and he's like, no, they wouldn't say that. They would probably tell you I'm the devil. And at this point, they're kind of like, what? Like, that's a weird thing to say. And he goes, haha, yeah, I'm literally Lucifer. What do you mean? I feel I should mention that Jay and E are both very, very spiritual people. So when he says this, of course, they're, like, really taken aback. And Jay said the energy shift happened in that moment so seriously, like, she said that his whole face changed, and he just looked so sinister, and he had this really scary smirk on his face, and he's like, yeah, I'm literally Lucifer. And so at this point, Jay's feeling real freaked out, right? I mean, E is too, but they're both like a little bit like, okay, like, that's a really weird thing to say. So then this guy R, he pulls out this pack of cigarettes. E has just stopped smoking cigarettes, like, given up cigarettes, not smoking, but really, really misses cigarettes. And that day had just been talking about how much she was missing smoking. So he pulls out the cigarettes and he's like, you know, girls, I just feel like I was supposed to meet you guys because I met this girl earlier and she had this extra pack of cigarettes and I was just supposed to bring these cigarettes to you guys. So fucking sinister and creepy. So of course E is like trying to fight, like, no, I don't want these cigarettes, because obviously she wants the fucking cigarette. And so my best friend Jay is like, no, like, we don't want to smoke with you, like, it's fine. And he's like, wait, why not? Like, I have these cigarettes. And he's like waving them. She said she literally, he had the cigarettes and was waving them around because he could tell, like, E wanted to smoke, and he's like waving them in her face. And so she's like, no, like, I can't, like, I really want to, but I can't. And then my best friend Jay is like, oh, well, I don't smoke cigarettes, I only smoke this, and pulls out a dab pen. And so then she said it was so creepy, he literally looks at her, smiles, and goes, what kind do you want? Pulls out 2 different dab pens out of his pocket. And at this point she's like, oh my god, like, he's literally just here to try and, like, tempt us. Like, he's trying to, like, tempt these sides of ourselves and, like, get us into a dangerous situation, right? And so she's like, no, like, I don't want to do that with you, blah, blah, blah. And then at this point he turns kind of hostile, and he stops, like, trying to be like, oh, are you sure, and he starts attacking E. And he's like, you know what, I just don't understand, because you're being all high and mighty, you're over here saying you're not going to smoke a cigarette, but you're over here drinking. What's the difference? Why don't you just take pleasure in what you want to take pleasure in and just smoke a cigarette? And so now at this whole point that he's talking to E, he's, like, getting closer and closer to her. And so Jay is like, okay, this is, like, enough, like, this is too much, we need to put a stop to this. So she, like, gets up close to him and is like, you need to back up, like, you need to go away and back up, or else we're gonna have a problem. And she said that this happens for, like, 6 minutes. She's like, for 6 minutes she's sitting there telling him, like, you need to leave, and everything she's saying to him is not working. He's just totally ignoring her. Finally E turns to him and goes, I rebuke you, like that. And they said he didn't say anything. He just looked at them, got up, walked away. After, like, 6 minutes of them being like, you need to leave. Didn't bother them the rest of the night, didn't look at them, didn't do anything. Afterwards, they looked up this guy's name. His name means wolf. That's the meaning of his name. It literally means wolf. He's from Georgia, which, like, there's that song, The Devil went down to Georgia. He was looking for a soul to steal. And the most common job type for serial killers is a truck driver. I 100% believe this man was a serial killer. Oh my god, another crazy detail was he told them about how much he hates this place, but he moved down here because he got a big, huge plot of land, and he's been living here for like 5 years, but he's finally selling all of his land, and he's gonna be moving to Puerto Rico. I 100% believe this man was a serial killer. I think all of the shit he had was laced. I think he was trying to get them alone so that he could drug them and kill them. Or someone to look at you in your eyes and say, I am Lucifer. Like, what? Anyway, be careful out there.
I have thalassophobia. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a deep-seated fear of the sea, and also the fear of what lurks beneath the surface. I've had this fear for as long as I can remember, but one night my friends talked me into going out to sea, and I probably should have just stayed home. My friends are super adventurous and daring. They absolutely love the ocean. One summer night, they decided they wanted to go on a sailing trip. I told them I didn't want to go, but they said, come on, it'll be fun. Eventually, they convinced me. Before I knew it, I was on a sailboat surrounded by nothing but moonlit ocean. At first, me and my friends were having a lot of fun, and then we started getting further and further from the shore, and the water turned black. I started to feel sick, like something was just not right. Then the singing started. It echoed over the water, and then my friend stopped laughing. It was like our joy had just been sucked right out of the air. Something about the song was not right. It almost felt hypnotic. But the song seemed to have more effect on my friend Max than anyone else. We all started talking about what it was, but Max separated himself from the group. And this was very unlike Max because he was always the life of the party. We decided as a group the best thing to do was head back to shore. We were over an hour from the shore, and Max seemed to get more and more distant. Minutes started to pass, and then I saw Max standing at the edge of the boat. We all started to get really worried about him, but we thought, he's probably just anxious, because he wasn't the only one that was freaked out by the song. Then Max jumped. I'm out of time, so go to part 2.
I need to tell you guys this ghost story. This story was sent into my email, and if you have any scary stories, ghost stories, or paranormal encounters that you'd like to share, you can send them to the email in my bio. We lived in Alaska our entire life, and strange things had always happened in my sister's house. My sister had experienced little paranormal moments here and there. Things moving, strange sounds, that sort of thing, but nothing extreme, at least not yet. Then one day, everything changed. A 7.2 magnitude earthquake hit the area. Walls shaking, objects falling, and the entire world moving in a way that it just felt like it wasn't supposed to. And after that earthquake, the house felt different. It felt heavier, almost like something in it had shifted. Not just the ground, but something inside the house as well. And about a week later, something strange started happening. Every single school night, we began waking up at exactly 3 a.m. Not 2:58, not 3:05, always 3. At first we thought that maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe our bodies had developed a weird sleep schedule after the earthquake. But the strange part wasn't just waking up. It was the feeling that came with it. Every time our eyes opened into the darkness, we felt it immediately. The overwhelming feeling that someone was watching us. The room would be completely quiet, but the feeling was so strong that it made our skin crawl. We would lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, too scared to move, and just waiting for the feeling to pass. This went on for an entire week, and then suddenly, it stopped. Things went back to normal for a while, but whatever had been there clearly hadn't left. After high school, I had started dating someone. And one night, after going out on a date, I came home pretty late. When I walked into the house, the lights were mostly off, but my niece was sitting in the living room, awake and relaxing, while everyone else in the house had already gone to sleep. We decided to sit down and watch some TV together. We turned on Shameless and got comfortable on the couch. The house was quiet, and the only light in the room was coming from the television. In the dining area behind us, the light was off. Hanging from the ceiling was this chandelier-style fixture, but the entire area was dark. While watching TV, though, something caught my eye in my peripheral vision. Movement. I glanced toward the dining area, and just for a split second, I saw it. A tall, shadow figure, at least 7 feet tall. It moved across the dark dining area like something walking through the room. I immediately turned my head to look directly at it. But when I did, there was nothing there. The room was completely empty. I brushed it off, thinking that maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. But a few minutes later, it happened again. Movement out of the corner of my eye, the same tall shadow figure passing through the dining area. Again, I looked directly toward it, and again, nothing. By the third time of it happening, the atmosphere in the room had completely changed. Both me and my niece suddenly felt it at the exact same moment. That deep, instinctual feeling that something was very, very wrong. Without saying much, we quickly turned on the dining room light, and the moment the light clicked on, we heard something that made our blood run cold. A small voice, the voice of a little girl, softly saying, "Hey." We didn't stay in that room another second. We immediately ran to wake up my sister. My sister got up and decided to sage the house, hoping that it would clear whatever was there, but instead of helping, it seemed to make things worse. For the next week, things were tense in the house. Everyone felt uneasy, like something unseen was moving through the rooms. And one night, my sister decided to go out, and I went with her. At some point, we stopped by a neighbor's house nearby, and while we were there, I suddenly had a playful idea. My sister's house was only a short walk down the road, so I thought that it would be funny to run ahead and get there first. I started walking down alone the road to the house. That's when I noticed something strange. Fog. Thick fog slowly rolling across the street. At first, it seemed normal. Alaska weather can be unpredictable, so I didn't think too much about it. But the closer I got to the house, the thicker the fog became. By the time I stepped into the driveway, the world around me felt eerily silent, and then I saw it. Standing directly in front of me in the driveway was a tall, dark figure, a man-shaped shadow, at least 7 feet tall, completely black, no face, no features, just a towering silhouette, and I froze. For a moment, neither of us moved. And then suddenly, the figure lunged towards me, and that's when pure survival instinct kicked in. I turned and ran as fast as I could back to the neighbor's house, tears streaming down my face. I burst through the door where my sister was still inside, completely hysterical. And when my sister asked what had happened, I tried to explain through sobs about what I had just seen. My sister's boyfriend at the time decided to go check the house to make sure no one had broken in. He walked through every room, checked every corner. But when he came back outside, he said that the house was completely empty. No one was there, and whatever that shadow figure was, it had disappeared. That was the one and only time that I was ever directly confronted by what I believe was a shadow person. But even now, I still wonder if the earthquake that shook the ground that day woke something up.
Can we show them the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. As you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
It went to both.
Yeah.
My grandma met the devil, story time. So when grandma was in her late teens, she had a child out of wedlock and this man abandoned her. So at this point, her parents were pushing her to get married to someone new. That's how it was back then. She's sitting in the old Chevy with her friend at a burger place when this really tall, dark, very attractive man walks up behind the car, stops, turns around and comes back to her window and leans in. My grandma was very modest, but she openly admitted this was the most attractive man she had ever seen in her entire life. He didn't even look real. She didn't even think people could look this way because he was so perfect, so handsome. He was about 6'5", 6'6" tall. He had jet black hair, bright green eyes, big lips, and pretty white teeth. He was dressed in all black. Black coat, black shirt, black pants, and black shoes. So he leans down in the window and they start talking. He says his name is Sammy, he's new to town, and he's just trying to make some new friends. So my grandma and her friend, being the sweet, kind people they were, they invite him to come sit down and have a burger with them. He was very quiet and shy, but he only talked to her. He didn't say 2 words to her friend, so she thought maybe he liked her. And they'd ride off and ride around town all night, just talking and hanging out. Here's where it starts to get weird. Grandma said when she went to drop him off, she asked him, "Where do you stay?" He said, "Well, I don't have a home, I just came to town." She said, "Well, where do you want me to take you?" And he had her drop him off at the graveyard. He was like, "I don't know that I really want to go out there, because that's just a scary place, even in the daylight." He was like, "Well, just take me to the end of the road." So she drops him off at the big gate. Now, she did not tell this man where she lived, but the next day around 12 o'clock, he comes walking up the driveway, and her mom's sitting there on the porch, shelling butter beans, and she's like, "Hey, there's some tall guy walking up the driveway." Her mom's like, "Oh, that's Sammy, the man I met last night." So by now, her friend and her mother have both seen this man. He's real. But most importantly, he was dressed in all black. So Sammy walks up where Grandma, her mom, and the little toddler are sitting on the porch shelling butter beans, and Sammy asks Grandma out on a date. So my grandma looks over at her mom, and her mom's like, "Yeah, go ahead, I'll watch the baby." Remember, he came up walking, but now they're driving in her car. So he tells Grandma along the way that he's made a little picnic out in the graveyard. Grandma, being the kind of person that she was, didn't want to be disrespectful or ungrateful, so she agreed to go. They go out to the graveyard where she sees there is no picnic. He lied. There's no blanket, no food, no nothing. And now he's asking her all these personal questions, mainly about her faith and personal belief. He starts talking about religion. Do you go to church? What do you believe in? And then he starts debating with her a little bit about Christianity. Grandma always admitted she was never a perfect Christian. She sinned a lot. She made a lot of mistakes. But Grandma, being a faith warrior that she was, you could not dilute her faith. Like, she would fight you all day long about her God. She wouldn't push it on you, but if you debated her, she would defend it. Then Sammy asked Grandma, "Were you in love with the man you had that child by?" Grandma said, "Oh yeah, I thought we were going to get married. I fell head over heels for him." And Sammy said, I know when you're lying. It really freaked her out, though, that he called her out on it like that. She could just see something in his eyes, like he knew she wasn't telling the truth, so she admitted, no, I wasn't in love with him. The truth that everybody didn't know was Grandma and the baby daddy didn't even know each other. They had like a 1 or 2 night stand, got pregnant, and then because they didn't want to look bad, they told everybody they met, fell in love, were going to get married, and then the man abandoned her because he got cold feet. Sammy says, but you weren't going to marry him either. He wasn't the only one with cold feet, was he? Grandma was like, wait, we're the only 2 people who know what happened. How do you know that? And Sammy loudly says, I know everything. Then he tells her, I want you to come be with me. He said, you leave your child behind. It's just going to be you and me forever. And Grandma says, leave my child? I would never leave my child for anyone. And he says, yes, you would. You will for me. He said, I know for a fact you would leave your child and your whole family to be with me. Grandma responds, no, hell, I wouldn't. I would never leave my child for anyone. But mentally, in her mind, she admits she would. Like, there's a weird little feeling in her mind that says she would leave her child because it feels like he's persuading her to think or feel that way. Trigger warning. Then he tells her he wants to know that she'll do anything for him, even if that means unaliving people, and he'll give her whatever her heart desires. And now she's terrified. Something was telling her, you're dealing with something very serious here, like a serial killer, a demon, something's going on, and it's not good. You better get the fuck out of here. So she jumps up to leave, and then he pulls her back down and says, you can't leave until we're finished. You have to say yes or no. He says, I know you need a partner and a father for your child. She said, you said if we were together, I'd be abandoning my child. He said, well, that would be a stipulation of the deal. She said, it sounds like you're trying to trick me. He said, well, some people do call me a trickster. He said, all you have to do is agree to be with me. Just say the word yes, say it. She said, no, I'm not making a deal, no. And then she starts thinking about the story her great-grandmother used to tell her about the man in black. So the Man in Black story dates back as far as we can remember, all throughout the southern states. And it's a very attractive man who dresses in all black and targets female victims of all ages, asking them to do his bidding or trying to make a deal. They call him a trickster for a reason because his deals never end well, never, and people believe that he's actually trying to take souls. So she used to wear this pendant that her mom gave her. It wasn't a cross, it was something else. So she grabs it and starts mentally praying, please don't let nothing happen to me or my child, please protect us, because she's starting to freak out. She's scared. He backed up and said, you're never going to agree to it, are you? And she said, no, you should know that if you know everything. But he stands up, looks down at her, and she said his pupils got so big his eyes looked black, like they were almost solid black. He said, too bad we couldn't make a deal, but I will see you again in a few years. She said, no, you won't. He said, yes, I will. And then he disappeared as he walked behind the graves. She got so scared, her hands were shaking, her palms were sweating, almost about to throw up, so she got in the car and headed home. The whole way home, she kept thinking she was mentally breaking down, like, was he even real? Did this happen? And then when she gets home, her mom says, well, how did the date go with Sammy? And she's like, so he is real. You did see him. And her mom was like, yeah, where is he? What happened? And then she tells her mom, and her mom was like, holy shit. So her mom, being the religious fanatic that she was, takes grandma and the baby down to the river and has the preacher baptize them all over again because she thinks the devil's after them. Grandma said she don't know if he was a psycho, a serial killer, or a demon, but what she does know is he's real and he was there. And what's crazy, he was right. She saw him again 10 years later and he hadn't aged a bit. He came to her at her lowest point when her current husband was abusing her and her children. If you want to hear about that, I'll make a part 2.
This story is wild, and I want to know what you think. So a man tells this story, we're going to call him John, about from when he was a kid in the 1970s. He said that he and his family lived in the boonies in Ohio, and they lived in a large house centered in several acres of land. Most of the property was heavily wooded. He said that there was a large hill that sloped down and away from the house in the front. One late November, it had snowed so much already that he and his brother were able to go sledding. John hops onto his trusty flexible flyer, and in no time he was jetting down the hill. That his brother was still at the top of the hill waiting for his turn. So after John came to a complete stop, he said he remembers looking around and digging through the snow because he had lost his mitten. As he was digging, and he didn't get very far when all of a sudden he saw a bright light shining through. He cleared away some more snow and he could not believe what he saw. He was seeing daylight. He said not only that, but he could see about 50 feet down, and he could also make out a street and houses. All this was visible through an 8-inch hole that he dug up out of his front yard. He kept on looking, and there was an entire neighborhood under there, all within that little passage that he carved out. And he was very clear that this was not over kind of like a cliff or an overhang where you might be able to see through to something beneath. He said no, this was an entire world that was visible to him in a place where it should have not been visible. As far down as he was able to see, he said it should have just been 50 feet of dirt and rock underneath that snow. So John is sitting there stunned, and his brother begins to descend down the hill after him. And he, just for a split second, looked up to see his brother coming and looked back down at the spot, and all of a sudden, now it is gone. He said all that was in that place was a cleared out area of dormant grass where the snow once was. He said that the next day he went sledding again, and he went right back to that spot and he checked, and sure enough, it was not there. He never was able to see that opening with that world in there ever again. He said that the only person he ever shared that mystery neighborhood with was his wife, of course, many years later. So she's looking at him like he's nuts, and he goes, I mean, could you blame her? John also mentions that the houses looked like those typical city houses built in like the 1940s or mid-century. He said it didn't feel like it was a different time. It was just a different place that he shouldn't have been able to see. All right, what are your thoughts? Leave them in the comments. And if you have an awesome creepy story of your own, I would love to hear it. And if you haven't already, you gotta follow for more creepy story time.
Spooky story time. A follower named Annalisa sent me this video, and we're gonna call it The Face on the Door. She also sent us proof, so I'm gonna post that as well. Annalisa says that they live in a new house. They've been there for a few years, but they were the first people to ever live in that house because the house was brand new. And she says that she knows for a fact that this house is absolutely haunted. She did try to do some research on the land, and she wasn't able to find anything specific, so she has no idea where any of this is coming from. She says that there are at least 2 spirits in her home. She says that one of these spirits is a child, and the child loves to play peekaboo. She says that she could be watching TV or whatever, and on the corner of her eye, she can see the child kind of like peeking around corners or like the footboard of the bed, and loves to move stuff around like lollipops and stuff. She says with that spirit, it's mostly silly things that he does, but it's still very creepy. The other spirit, she says, is completely opposite. That he is very tall, about 6'5", and he just has this dark and heavy presence. She says that her son, who's 15, has seen this apparition multiple times. One time through a mirror. Another time he was standing in the hallway bathroom, looked at him, and walked through the wall into the next bedroom. And she says she's never seen her son that scared in her entire life. Even her mom has had experiences with this presence. She said that one time her mom was asleep on the couch. She's out. That next morning, she feels someone sit on the couch. And she's kind of annoyed because she thinks it's her husband. And she's like, what do you want? Like, I'm asleep. No answer. So she sits up, and there's nobody on the couch. She goes and she checks, and her husband is fast asleep on the bed. The creepiest of all, she says that she was outside playing with her babies one day, enjoying the nice weather, and out of nowhere, she just looks at their screen door in the front, and she notices an imprint of a man's face. I'm going to insert that here. She's Native American, and she says that she thinks that whatever this is, whatever spirit this is also Native American because of some features that he has. She does want to dig deeper, but she's low-key kind of scared about opening a door that she might not be able to close. She does want me to add that they've never used anything crazy like a Ouija board inside that house or anything like that. So she doesn't know what it could possibly be or why there's even spirits in this house. She's even used sage to cleanse that house, and it works for a little bit, but they always end up coming back. What do you guys think? Thank you so much to Annalisa for sending me the spooky story. That picture that you sent is... I showed it to my husband, and I was like, hell no. If you guys have any spooky stories that you'd like for me to share, please send them via DM or email, and I'd love to read them. And I will see you guys in the next spooky story. Bye.
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen.
Did the window
Sean.
break?
But my mom said we have an uncle, and he did find treasure, and he did leave the United States and went to Mexico.
Damn, like, and just took off with it? Didn't say anything else?
Because the government was going to take the money away.
Where did he find it?
I don't know where he found it. But I remember my dad saying that he would always see a white dog. A white dog, a white dog.
That he would see it or that your uncle would see it?
The uncle would see it. And he would follow the dog because he liked the dog. And it would always disappear.
Well, he followed it one day and it led him there?
The spot where he disappeared, right there. And they told him, that there was something buried there. And supposedly it was a big chunk of stuff. Because he left. And supposedly it's the ones that live in Monterrey.